Have you ever wondered what has happened to the United States and its once vibrant culture? Have you ever wondered why a virtuous American culture has been in decay for over 60 to 70 years? The book Deus Ex Machina, God from the Machine, explains how foreign belief systems have been imported into the United States by foreign intellectual agents to be used to fundamentally transform the most prosperous and free nation in the world into a typical third world country. Learn how the progressive academics, progressive activists, large corporations, and the mainstream media have become appendages of the federal government, a Praetorian Guard, and an extension of the political vanguard class. Deus Ex Machina exposes the cogs of the machine that progresses our civil society to chaos and subjugation. Get this tool to educate others and illuminate the truth on the battlefield of ideas. Let's make a difference. Get Deus Ex Machina, the progression of secular socialism, from Amazon.com and Lulu.com today.
You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Houston? Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field of view now. Okay, ready for me to come out? All set. Okay, I'm on the top step. It's a very simple matter to hop down from one step to the next. You've got 3 more steps and then a long one. Okay, I'm going to leave that 1 foot up there and both hands down about the 4th rung up.
Roger that. 2 miles, he's back on my nose. Fox 1 again.
And we say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to our FBI, we will not be harassed. We will not make a butchery of our conscience. We will not be intimidated, and we will be heard.
6 miles, 6 miles. Tally 2. Turn it into me. Roger that. 12 miles. 4 miles. Taking right. Roger that. Good kill. Good kill.
I got the other one. Short Fox 2. Short Fox 2.
Coming hard.
Shoot him. I haven't got a cone.
Got the second one.
I got the second one on the nose right now.
Hey, I'm high cover on you.
Get a Fox. Get it. Lock him up. Lock him up.
Battlefield Live radio program. You're listening to Chris Pellier on Lanterns Media Network. I want to thank you for joining me. How y'all doing? I've been geared up all day for this show. And quite honestly, I haven't really had anything I really wanted to talk about. I just wanted to talk. I don't know. I guess I get like that. Talk radio guy, right? But so we watched the Dow Jones Industrial Average go over 20,000 today. Folks, it's impressive. But I think there's a bit of context that we have to take into consideration of what that all means. Okay? It's very easy to get excited. Look, you got to attribute some of this to Trump and what he's been promising. In the last couple days, he's followed through on some of his promises. And one of his promises that he's had is about to turn the economy around. So there's a lot of people out there that are investing, that are excited and putting their money in the market. But what is the broad scope, if you will, or the broad picture, if you will, of the economy, our economic outlook? What happens with this market the way it is now? What has happened over the last 8 years, and what kind of damage has been done? So these are some of the questions we'll talk about here on the Battlefield Live. So you're listening to Chris Pellier from Lanterns Media Network, and I hope you stick with me, because this is going to be a good one. That's right. Battlefield Live radio program. Stick with me. Be right back after this short break. Lanterns Media Network. Check us out on Lanterns Buzz. Lanterns.buzz, the website. Check us out.
We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live.
You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris Pielier from Lanterns Media Network, the Battlefield Live radio program. I want to thank you for joining me on the battlefield today, and it is a great day down here in southern Louisiana. If y'all not know, I'm from Louisiana. That is great. I'm probably, I guess you'd say, maybe an hour out from New Orleans, and love going to New Orleans. It's a great place to be, especially during Mardi Gras, which is coming. It's going to be really exciting. If y'all not familiar with Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday is the day before Ash Wednesday, Catholic holiday, right? Or a Catholic, should you call it a holiday? It's not a holiday. Basically, it's Fat Tuesday's the day before you start fasting for Lent and things like that. So everybody parties and drinks a bunch of beer and goes out and gets king cake. If y'all don't know what king cake is, it's basically a delicious cake. You got to look it up. Look up a place called Randazzo's. If you go online, you check out Randazzo's and order you a king cake online. They're kind of pricey if you're going to order one. It's not like you can walk into the store over here and get one, but they're delicious. They can make them, filled with cream cheese and all kind of stuff, different fruit fillings and things like that. Think of it as a really, really, really big donut, delicious donut. That's basically what a king cake is. So during the Mardi Gras holidays, usually there's a parade or two every single night during the season, and it's like a 2 or 3 week period where there's a large concentration of these parades, and basically what it is just a bunch of floats and a bunch of people on them throwing beads out to the patrons that come to the festival, if you will, and all these parades have different different themes. Like the ones that I like to go to are the ones right before Mardi Gras Day. So my favorite is Endymion. We go to Endymion on Saturday, and typically what we do is we go down there early in the morning. We get our little spot because it's kind of like you have to like stake out your area. You want to kind of set up your tables, and a lot of people, some people bring like barbecue pits. They get really serious. Of course, using the restroom is always a challenge, so you try to set up a place that's not too close and not too far away from a place to use the restroom if you have to use public restrooms, porta-cans, if you will. And so basically, you bring your table down there, you get some Popeyes fried chicken. That's right, that's where Popeyes from New Orleans. And, of course, if you're from the area, you know that cold Popeyes fried chicken is a tradition because you eat it the night before. You got leftovers the next morning. You wake up early to go out to the parade route, and what do you have left over? Well, you got Popeye's fried chicken. It's been in the refrigerator, and you just eat it cold. This is the way it is. It's kind of weird, I know. Also, so we got all these parades. Orpheus, my favorite one. We get down there early on Saturday. It's a Saturday before Ash Wednesday and Fat Tuesday, which is the Tuesday before. And basically just, hang out, talk with family and friends, eat king cake, eat Popeye's fried chicken, hamburgers, finger sandwiches, drink beer and more beer, have a great time. Parade usually comes in right at dark, and these floats are absolutely gorgeous. Think of like an 18-wheeler, like a trailer, but think of 3 of them back to back being pulled by a huge tractor. And these 18-wheelers, think of it as being like a bunch of people on them, right? They're on the side, and these floats are decorated in absolutely the most gorgeous decorations with lights, LEDs, just absolutely gorgeous. And of course, all these big parades like Endymion, Bacchus is one, Orpheus is another one. They all have celebrity guests that get on these floats, and they'll have like a celebrity band, and the band will play on one float, and then they'll have like a Hollywood actor or actress that's on another float, and it's just really, really exciting. It's festive and it's fun. And then Mardi Gras Day is a little different. I don't necessarily always do Mardi Gras Day. I like the night parades, the big, beautiful parades. What happens on Mardi Gras Day is you have Rex, which is the traditional parade, where Rex is the king of Mardi Gras, and he comes in off of I think he comes in off of the Natchez, which is the riverboat. I think that's how they do it, at the canal launch, and he basically gets on the floats, and they basically go into the city. And that's, the big traditional parade. And I may be getting a little bit of this wrong, folks. I'm not like a scholar on the Mardi Gras history and all this, but it's one of the oldest parades. And then, of course, before that, I think it's before Rex that you have Zulu, and which they give out the famous coconuts. They have these coconuts that they hand paint. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then after the Rex parade, you have other parades, and followed by a bunch of truck parades. So if you want to get into the parade, you basically get a truck. I think you have to sign up for it or whatever. You get you a flatbed truck, and you build your little float, and everybody, family and friends get on the float, and you go down the parade route and throw beads to everybody. So it's a lot of fun. So I just thought I'd mention that because it's something, a lot of you all may not know everything about me, and it's share a little bit about what goes on at home. And from New Orleans. So if y'all have any questions, we're on Facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. You can check out our feed there, our live feed, and ask me any questions that you may have. Got a really interesting show tonight. I actually have, a special guest tonight, country singer that is going to be on the show tonight, Ryan Weaver. If you've not heard of him, I'm going to play his show in the right before he comes on. I'm going to play his new song. Great. I actually have the video, so y'all be able to watch it. If you're watching this Facebook Live, you can check us out. Also want to mention, too, if you have not followed us yet on social media, there's a number of different places you can go. Number one, you can follow us on Lanterns Buzz on Facebook and Twitter. So just do a keyword search for Lanterns Buzz, at Lanterns Buzz on Twitter. Or you can go to Facebook.com/Lanterns Buzz, where we are Facebook Live. You can also find us on Spreaker at Spreaker.com/user/Lanterns Buzz. So just do a keyword search, #LanternsBuzz. Very easy to find there. You can also go to our website at lanterns.buzz. That's our network website, or our show page, which is battlefield.buzz. Check us out there. You can also find us on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, and SoundCloud. Yes, we're everywhere. I would imagine, folks, we may be even on Sonogram somewhere. They're just saying. All right, so let's jump right into this. We got the Dow breaks 2,000 or 20,000 rather today, right? Big deal. A lot of people are, they're really, really excited about the Dow. So, what does this mean, right? Well, let's jump with the article first. I'll read this out of CNBC. Dow closes above 20,000 for first time as Trump orders send stocks flying. And bear with me here. Just let me hit pause. All these websites, they always want to throw all this junk in your face, right? Videos and, all this crazy stuff. Anyway, all right. U.S. equities, which are stocks, close at an all-time highs on Wednesday after a series of executive orders from President Donald Trump increased bullish sentiment on Wall Street while financials outperformed. The Dow Jones Industrial Average broke the 20,000 mark for the first time, rising about 150 points as Boeing, Goldman Sachs, and IBM contributed to the most gains. People are seeing that the administration is carrying through with some of the things they promised, said John Statler, head of U.S. Financial Services industry practice at PwC. It looks like long-term capital gains as we are here to stay. The S&P 500 advanced 0.8% to a new all-time high, with financials rising more than 1.5%. Clearly, this has become a buy high, sell higher market, with the Dow breaking above 20,000, said Terry Sandvin, chief equity strategist at U.S. Bank Wealth Management. Out of the gate, President Trump is moving along with his agenda. More importantly, earnings have been on the cusp of increasing, and that's what's going on in the keyhole these valuations, Sadvin said. The NASDAQ composite gained 0.99%, almost notching a record high. Traders have been, this is a quote, traders have been waiting for more details on infrastructure spending now that they have been a very clear format, said Naeem Al-Assam, chief market analyst at Think Markets. There is nothing bigger than this. A break of 20,000 for the Dow stimulates fresh capital, which has been waiting for the moment to join this party. Okay, so I'm not going to read the entire article. Just want to kind of give, I guess a little brief entry. If you all don't know, folks, what these different indices, what they are, let me first of all give you a little bit of my background. I actually, in the tech boom in the mid-'90s, I was a stockbroker in West Palm Beach, Florida. Actually, believe it or not, this is pretty interesting. I worked in Trump Plaza. That's right. I worked in Trump Plaza for a company down there, independent firm, and had my Series 7 stockbroker's license and traded stocks and things like that for about 2.5 years and absolutely hated it. It was interesting. I just didn't like the sales aspect of it. Maybe you all might think that I could be a good salesman. I'm not. At least I didn't think I was. It just wasn't something. I didn't like beating people up to go do good things for themselves. It was if I'm giving you a great deal and you can make a lot of money and I'm showing you the evidence of it and you don't want to buy it, it just frustrated me. But the thing that we have to look at here is what is it that drives these indices? You talk about the Dow Jones Industrial, which is 30 stocks, 30 large companies. They call them large cap companies. If I get my lingo off, I'm a little stale on the lingo, I guess you could say. But it's 30 different companies, large companies that make up that indices, and as these companies go up and down, the Dow Jones number, the composite rate of those particular companies, makes the Dow Jones go up and down. So that, and they use that as kind of a metric on how the overall market of the American economy is performing. And then you got the S&P 500, which is 500 companies. So it's actually a broader index. That's probably a better one to watch. It's not as big as the large cap type stocks like you see in the Dow. Is not as many, but it is a good indices to watch. And then you got NASDAQ, which is more of your computerized industrial. It's kind of like the Dow, but it's a different trading market. Is basically the best way to explain it. So I tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to get a little bit into more of this, and we're going to lead way into having Ryan Weaver on the program. So stick with me through the break. When we get back, I want to talk to you about what the market is doing, at least through my eyes, and what we could possibly expect and what we got to watch out for. So stick with me on the battlefield. We'll be right back after this short break. Battlefield Live, Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
People often ask me, they say, Chris, how is it that we can change the minds of many in this country? And I say, well, you first don't start with the mind, you have to start with the heart. You don't change minds without changing hearts. And that's what we're going to do. It wasn't that long ago that you might have not have had hope for the country, and all of a sudden you have a change of heart.
expect that other people right now feel the same way that you used to. It's those people that we have to reach out to. It may be you that we have to reach out to. So it's our task to form a community, a group, unified behind principles, unified behind what has made America the country that it is now. It's about liberty. It's about freedom. And everybody wants to experience this. We just have to show them how. It's about you being a lantern shining out the light of truth. And we can bring this all together in one place. It's truly about the shining city on the hill. Hope is not in the hands of someone else. It's within ourselves. It's within our hearts. It's within our minds. And it's about utilizing those things in order to be able to make us free.
Lanterns illuminating the truth. Battlefield Live.
Thank you for sticking with me on the battlefield. Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. Folks, if you haven't yet, check us out on social media. Lanterns Buzz, real simple. You can look it up the keyword search on, hell, you can go to Google and you see the places where we are. But just do a keyword search for Lanterns Buzz, or you can check us out on Twitter or Facebook at Lanterns Buzz, and on YouTube, you just do a keyword search there. And look, I want to mention our network, Lanterns Media Network. We got a great team. Let me tell you something. We got our good friend Crystal, who's running the journalism side, and it seems like every single day we bring on new writers. And so I want to give a big shout out to Crystal and all the hard work that she's doing. I mean, she is just incredible. She comes from Madison's Media. And she's just done a great job, and I can't thank her enough. So if you're out there, Crystal, listening, I want to thank you for all the hard work you're doing, and as well as Jonathan Dunn. If y'all not familiar with Jonathan, he's from the Blaze. He does a radio show over there. Very talented guy, and he's got a heart of gold. And I tell you what, he's a guiding light. Crystal and I both look to John. For inspiration as well as guidance in a lot of things. Great principles. What's amazing is he's from Ireland, and he knows more about this country than most people. And it's just because he can see it. It's amazing what people can see that don't live here. They actually see what we have. And it's really amazing. So I want to give a big shout out to John. Also, I want to give a shout out to Victoria, who's helping me with all our project services. Also, Taryn. On the news. Taryn is an awesome editor. She's doing great work, as well as Heather. And also Matt. Matt is one of the people that is working with us behind the scenes on our social media. And just all the writers and the podcasters, the broadcasters, all of the hard work that's going in to put this network together. I tell you what, it's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to going to CPAC. We're going to have some great things coming up. So I want to jump right back into what we're talking about, the market. Okay. So a lot of people have been looking at what happens in the market today, and they're attributing it all to Donald Trump. Or they're saying, look, Donald Trump has worked his magic. He's waved the magic wand, and all of a sudden we have, great prosperity in the nation. Number one, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. And as excited as we could be about the Dow Jones Industrial and the prosperity that we're seeing right now in the market, it's basically a lot of big movers and shakers in the market, mutual funds. Look, whenever I don't want to get too technical on how these stocks work, but if you're watching us on Facebook Live, I'll explain it. So when you got a stock that goes up and down, right? It's going up and down. And when it comes down, it bounces off of what they call a support. When it goes up, it bounces off of what they call a resistance. So it bounces between these trend lines. And what people that read stochastics on stocks do, that's what I used to do, you watch these trend lines. Well, you have these big mutual funds, which basically a mutual fund is think of it as a big bucket with a bunch of stocks in it, right? And as all these stocks go up and down in there, the value of the overall mutual fund goes up and down. So it's intended to spread out your risk. That's what these mutual funds are for. And, of course, they have managers, people that are investment brokers or investment managers that manage these big mutual funds. And some of them are huge companies like Fidelity and, all these. Goldman Sachs has a bunch. Anyway, so the whole intention is, in my explanation of this, is that these trend lines, as these break these trend lines, there's computer trading, specifically on NASDAQ, that actually watches these trends, and it does make large purchases based on different trends. Well, going above 20,000 is a huge barrier to break. It's a record-breaking high. So when that happens, it just creates more energy to make the market go higher. Okay. Now, like any high comes a low. Markets move on trends, and they gradually move up. As long as your economy is growing steadily, the stock market will always grow. It'll have ups and downs, ups and downs. Well, think of it like this. If you go out on Saturday night, right, and you drink too much, what happens? You feel great, right? You probably feel better than normal. You have this kind of euphoria, the hormones in your body making you feel good. Yeah, you feel great. All of a sudden, the next morning you wake up and boom, what happens? Got a hangover, right? Well, that happens in the market too. It's a part of nature, right? So what we saw, for instance, say in 2008 when the housing market collapsed, what happened was there was a bubble, which means that the market was overpriced, or the price was too high. The value of the market in the housing market was way too high. So what happened is the market always finds its true value. So what did it do? Well, this bubble of this inflated price of the housing market popped. And when it popped, all the prices tumbled in the market, and then it actually went below what we call a support, and then it bounced back up. So if you look at the trend over, I guess, maybe 15, 20 years in the housing market, you'll see this bubble. And then when the market came back down, if you follow the value back down, it bounced on that long-term trend line, that support. Okay? The reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because we're experiencing a lot of highs, and there is going to be lows, right? It's going to be highs and lows. The question is the price of the market, okay, overall, is the price of the market inflated? I want you to think about this, because there is a problem in our market, because the market has been heavily inflated based on money that's been pumped into our economy by the Fed. There's been $4 trillion pumped into our economy by the Fed. Now, there's a lot that goes into monetary policy. This is a really complex thing. A lot of very smart people that are much smarter than me explore all these things. But what I want to do, we're going to take a break again, and when we come back, I'm going to bring on our good friend Ryan Weaver, great country singer and patriot. But I want you, in the meantime, during this break, when I get Ryan on the phone, I want you to watch his video. Absolutely great song, really excited. I wanted to lighten things up a little bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so stick with me, and if you're on Facebook Live, watching us at facebook.com/LanternsBuzz, you'll be able to see this video. And it's on YouTube. We'll actually share it after the show. But take a check out at this.
It is important to remember that some of us come home at a price, and that some families are not so fortunate to have loved ones come home at all. Give thanks that you may reach that place. I do. CW2 Aaron A. Weaver, KIA 8 January 2004, Iraq.
13 Hotel, inbound.
Let it out!
when you dare to take a breath. Don't care about no medals on your chest. You're a steely-eyed killer shadow in the night. You were born to fight. You gotta light 'em up before they burn you down. Better dig deep and put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all before they burn it down. It's a long way to home, but you won't take the hard road all alone. Just look to your left and look to your right. You were born to fight. You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, they're hellbound. Save us all before they burn it down. You gotta light 'em up before they burn it down. Better dig deep, put 'em in the ground. Blood on their hands, yeah, they're hellbound. Save us all. Ooh, they're gonna burn it down. Save us all before they burn it down.
You are listening to
The Lanterns Radio Network,
where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Welcome back to the Battlefield Live radio program. It's Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. I wanted to bring on our good friend Ryan Weaver. Ryan is a high-energy, all-American rock and country music artist who proudly served as an active-duty Black Hawk helicopter pilot and in a Chief Warrant Officer 3 in the United States Army. So I wanted to bring Ryan on. What's going on, Ryan? How you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing out there?
Man, that is a kick-ass song, man.
I appreciate it.
Y'all look like y'all had a lot of fun putting that together.
It was a pretty incredible day. We actually shot that whole music video in one day and brought Chris Peranto and John Tigan out there for the video shoot, out here to Nashville for the video shoot. And it was an awesome day for us to be able to get all of it together at one time. And then, of course, we had Paramount give us authorization to use the trailer clips from 13 Hours in it as well. So it was pretty exciting to get it all in one bunch.
That's pretty awesome. So Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I could go and read through your bio, which is an incredible bio, but I'd like to kind of maybe get some of your background, where you grew up. I mean, kind of what made you. I know you went into the military. What made you go in the military, and what inspired you to do country music?
Well, I grew up in West Central Florida in Citrus County, a little town called Floral City is where my house was, and I graduated from Citrus High School in a town called Inverness. A lot of folks have heard of Ocala, Florida. It's about 22 miles southwest of there. And then at 18 years old, I went in the Army as an intelligence analyst and got up to E6 and went to flight school. My brother Aaron was at flight school at the time and became a warrant officer, went through warrant officer candidate school and flight school, and then After flight school, was restationed to Germany, and in 2003 went to Iraq. And in 2004, Aaron and I were deployed to Iraq together, and he was a cancer survivor, and he had to get a waiver to be deployed over there to Iraq, but he had to get bi-monthly blood screenings done. And when he was going to get one of those bi-monthly blood screenings, the medevac helicopter that he was a passenger in was shot down, and he was killed in action.
Wow.
And I returned back from Iraq to Florida for his funeral, and then was restationed to Fort Rucker in Alabama, and that's where I started writing doing karaoke competitions in flight school, but then I started writing songs over in the desert, and really loved the performance, performing karaoke and singing competitions. And it's kind of crazy because, you have the Kenny Chesney song where he talks about she started off singing as a karaoke queen, and now she's a big star on the big stage. But so I started chasing it. I started going after the dream. I figured life was too short. It was something that I loved doing, and from 2005 until now, I've been going after it hard, and gone from the small club scene to the festival scene to open up for national acts. And then, September 11th in 2015, I actually had my boots on the center stage of the Grand Ole Opry.
Wow.
Performing with Charlie Daniels, introducing me to come out. So it was, it's been quite a journey. I've been extremely blessed to be able to go after a dream in this beautiful country of ours.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, to me, this is a truly American story. And first of all, thanks for your service. Thank you for your service. And prayers go out to you and obviously the soul of your brother. It's always tough to hear stories like that, but it's also great to know that there's people out there fighting for people like me to be able to do what I do, right? To get out and speak on the radio. I do not have obviously a story as compelling as yours in this regard, but my mother passed away, and she was an artist. Maybe this is something we can relate on. My mother was an artist, and I learned a lot from her. And as the relationship that her and I had through art, I felt like, after she passed, that relationship was still there. Absolutely. And so it was kind of like, I don't want to say like it was some kind of supernatural thing, like, she was speaking me through the grave or whatever. But I felt like, as her artwork hangs in my house, that there's always this memory of her, and she's always kind of pushing me to be the best person that I can. And all the weird little things that I learned from her, like, color theory. I've talked about this before, where, how colors interact with each other. I think about these things all the time, and how it's not just about art, but it's about how color just, comes into your life and so forth. But one of the things that, when I hear your message, whenever someone goes through maybe a little bit of the turmoil that you have gone through, obviously with losing someone that was so close to you, is that generates kind of like this energy for you to go out and tell your message, and you're doing it in your way. Is that kind of how you see it? How you're traveling the country, kind of telling that story?
Absolutely. I made a promise to myself when I first got started that every time I got on stage that I would talk about Aaron, and it was cathartic. It helped me heal, and it's going through a difficult situation, but it helped me heal. But I mean, Aaron, when I was in the military, I always used Aaron's success and his level of success as a measure of my own. And when he was killed in action, I had to start making my own. Instead of following his footsteps, I had to make my own. And then in 2013, my brother-in-law Randy was an aviator in Afghanistan, and he was shot down and killed in action too. So we're actually a two-time Gold Star family.
Wow.
But when I wrote a song in 2014. On January 8th, the anniversary of Aaron's death, called "What You Think of Me." And every time I the way that I've been trying to do this in the best way possible, with the most character, and chasing my dreams and treating people the right way. I always wake up and wonder what he thinks of me, and and if I'm doing it the right way. And it drives me to be successful. And, he continues, even where he is now, he continues to drive me, and so does Randy, to be successful, because I know that I have that capability because of the sacrifice that they made.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that works. So it was weird when my mother passed. She had cancer. So when I saw that, she was getting, you could tell. I mean, she was getting, pretty ill, and she had been fighting it for 12 years. And I guess I was able to prepare. I mean, the situation that you went through is much different than what I would imagine that I felt, because I kind of was prepared for it. Right. And when my mother, when she passed, it was this weird kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. She was always there, and I knew that she wasn't there now, at least physically. And I just felt like that, it's hard to really explain, but it's like she never really went away. And and the relationship that I had with my mother when I was younger was kind of a rocky relationship. It was like, I guess, mother-son type relationship. I was kind of a mischievous kid. And I felt like after that, it solidified our relationship, and it was just, I don't know, it was really hard to explain. But so let me ask you this. So you were a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Were you that before these events happened with your brother and so forth? Was that, or did you do that after?
No, I was. I actually, the last day I flew was the day Aaron died. I was in Iraq with him as an aviator. Most of my hours that I flew as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot were combat hours. I did training in Germany, but I went through flight school, and then when I was restationed in Germany, I continued to do my training. They call it readiness level progression. And then I went into Iraq and flew most of my hours there. And then after that, it probably took me a good, 2 years to where I could even look at a Black Hawk without getting upset.
Wow.
So I essentially, I went back to Fort Rucker and was an instructor at the Warrant Officer Candidate School, an attack officer there, until I finished out my career. And that's what gave me it's a double-edged sword, because I'd take my brother back any day over the way things are now. But it afforded me the opportunity to go after my dreams, because I had a commandant that was extremely supportive of what I was doing, and he always believed that I was part of something much bigger than where I was at the time. And we've had some amazing opportunities. I mean, with this new music video coming out and the song coming out, it's been released to radio. It's been delivered out to radio. Once we get some promotion money behind it, we'll be able to push it even further. But to be able to get Chris Peranto and John Tigan, to become friends with them, to become friends with Oz as well, and know their story, and be able to support their cause, and then be able to spread a message. And I just can't wait till I get my name to the point to where I can make a huge difference in people's lives, in making change when it comes to supporting our veterans.
So we're talking with Ryan Weaver. He is a country music singer and veteran, and a compelling story. So your new song is "Burn," right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about that song, and like maybe what inspired you to write that song and perform that song?
Well, initially I wrote the song probably 10 months before we recorded it, and I'll try not to make this a long story, but it really kind of has a bit of a story and how it actually came to fruition. But we wrote it initially for my brothers and sisters in arms, and then when Mark Geist was from 13 Hours and John Tigan were promoting 13 Hours before it came out, I talked to them about getting some music in the movie. And then we rewrote the lyrics just a little, changed them just a little bit, and it fit it just perfectly. And then we recorded the song, and John Tigan, and it was too late to get it to the movie by the time we actually got it final and recorded. But John Tigan, Tig, in the movie, he's the one with the glasses. He edited the song to the trailer, and both of them started using it at their national speaking engagements around the nation, which was kind of cool, because the song I was getting videos from people watching them speaking, and they were sending it to me on Facebook and whatnot, and seeing these two huge American superheroes that I absolutely admired using my song. It was cool. It was really cool. And then John and I started really becoming closer friends, and we started trying to work on getting the funding for the music video for it. And he reached out to Paramount and got authorization to use the trailer clips from the movie. And Paramount was gracious in doing that for us. And then finally he actually started talking to Chris Tonto in the movie. Mm-hmm. And when he came on board, we solidified the funding to be able to get it done and the promotion to be able to get it out there. And, it's out on over 5,000 retailers around the nation and venues and restaurants and whatnot, and playing on Zeus Country and the Heartland Network, which, I guess, to be on CMT and GAC, you got to be a little bit, mostly on a record label with a lot of money behind you, I would say, to be able to do that. So I think we've got it. We've reached a pretty good audience, but it's still blowing up right now. We just went to SHOT Show out in Las Vegas with everybody out there and made a lot of huge connections. So there are a lot of things that are spinning up right now. It's pretty exciting.
So what's life on the road like? I've always wondered that. I've been following musicians for most of my life, and I've always wondered, what is life on the road like?
Well, I mean, I have to be honest with you. Most of my shows have been really targeted shows.
Right.
All of the show, I'm not out doing the grind in the clubs and that kind of thing anymore. I've tried to keep away from doing that and focusing a little bit more on the industry and trying to get high impact shows done. Like I played at the Ryman Auditorium and here in Nashville, played at the Bridgestone Arena twice with Volunteer Jam with Charlie Daniels, and I got to play between Ted Nugent and Michael W. Smith 2 years ago. It was kind of interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite a switch up, but it was actually really good because Ted Nugent got done with Cat Scratch Fever, and we had a little. He ended up walking off stage, and we thought Sean Hannity was going to introduce me to come on, but Sean Hannity's voice was out. So just long story short, there was a little bit of a pause, so I just walked out on stage to a sold out arena. I said, "Well, I want to thank Ted Nugent and Charlie Daniels for opening up for me tonight." And
that's a great story.
Oh man, but and then the whole crowd started laughing, and it was just like all of our guys were plugging in their instruments and trying to get them to work and everything. It was kind of a fly by the seat of your pants. So I just had to come up with something to say, and then it turned into a ballad. But it was a really emotional moment because I wrote this song, "What You Think of Me," that I told you about,
right?
And we got to debut it on that stage to a sold out arena, and then the second time I sang it was on the Grand Ole Opry. So it's pretty incredible stuff. And, all of our other things, all of the other shows that we've been doing have been targeted towards, either military nonprofits or large nonprofits that I believe in. I'm a huge supporter of any cancer nonprofit that's out there. So when you started speaking about your mother, really touched my heart. But, that's the kind of the stuff we've been doing. But with what's going on with Burn right now, there's a lot of people that are starting to get behind what we're doing, and everybody's talking about different tours and that kind of stuff right now. So it's going to be, I'll be able to give you a little bit of a different perspective once we get on the tour bus and start traveling down the road. It'll be a good time.
So let me ask you this: when you get out in front of all of those people, because I can tell you this, when I started in radio, I remember my first show, and what it was, I used to produce radio for actually, he ended up being one of my partners in radio quite a few years ago, and he was, I was basically, I'd speak on the radio, but I was pretty much providing him material in research and things of that nature, and I remember he had to take a Saturday off, and we used to do 3 hours on Saturday and 3 hours on Sunday, and we did it together, so, we could talk to each other, but he asked me to step in for him. And first of all, I was like, this is going to be cool. I'll get to do my own show. And then right before, all of a sudden I realized I got to talk for 3 hours by myself. And I had the worst stage fright. And I did okay, but do you get you get stage fright right before you go on stage? Or is it this nervousness?
I got to be honest with you. The only place that I would say that I got anxious stage fright nervousness was at the Bluebird Cafe here in Nashville, and that was a while ago. It was probably back in 2006 when I got up with a hit songwriter named Jeffrey Steele. I don't know if you've heard of him, but you may have heard of What Hurts the Most, My Wish, Me and My Gang.
Yeah.
Yeah, by Rascal Flatts. Hell Yeah, Chrome Speed helps him. He's written all of those. But he wrote one of the songs that I recorded called 19. And anyway, when you're at the Bluebird Cafe, everybody's sitting right in front of you. And there may be 50 people in the place because it's a really small, place to sing. So it's super intimate. And,
right.
And then I'm sitting, he brings me up and I'm just coming to town, just starting to come to town. And I got this huge songwriter, that's bringing me up, and he's a monster vocalist himself, and he just sits me down. He's like, so what key you want to sing it in? And I said, I'll sing it in whatever key you want me to sing it in. I don't care. But everybody's just sitting right there in front of you. But the rest of the time, I've played in front of 35,000. I've played in front of 2, at a club in Alabama, someplace where only 2 people showed up. But I get excited about it. It's a huge rush for me.
Right.
And quite honestly, being on stage for me I feel more at home on stage than anywhere else. The music, I think my music is really good, but my stage show, I think, is what sells me more than anything else.
Yeah, I actually, I even to this day, I've done, just in the latest program that I do, I think I'm up to like 450 podcasts. And
right. Even
before every show, I get butterflies. It's still kind of a little bit of nervousness. But once I get started, I feel comfortable and I feel at home. It just comes natural to me, and I just enjoy doing it. So I guess the biggest thing is that you're on the way, because I tell you what, that song, and it's the first time I've listened to it when I found out about you, and I said let me check this song out, and blew me away because, and look, I'll be honest with you, I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, like an old metalhead. I liked Metallica and Megadeth, and I listened to some of the like Depeche Mode and stuff like that. So I was really kind of in the rock, metal genre and stuff like that. And I haven't really been a big country guy until recently, because first of all, some of the best guitarists you're going to find are in country music.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love guitars, and I tell you what, when the I guess it's like maybe in the last 10 years, country music has changed a lot, and it's kind of crossed that barrier between old country into rock and roll, and right. I can get it now. Like, I understand it. I guess it's just, but watching your stage performance, at least in your video, I see some great things to come. And where can people get your music? Like, where can they go buy your album?
Right now, the best place to go is weavercountry.com. My website is weavercountry.com. All of my social media is on my website. There are also links to get Burn on my website. On iTunes, we actually have 3 singles out right now. We had a music video out in 2014 called Crank It. And that's a really funny one. If anybody watches Crank It, just know it was done after the Shallow Hal movie. The concept was done for Shallow Hal, so there's a little bit of comedy there. But a lot of folks don't get it because they don't watch all the way to the last 15 seconds. But either way, it's a cool song. Mm-hmm. Very first song I ever wrote in Nashville. But weavercountry.com has all of my stuff on it. Got some merchandise and cool stuff on there too.
Well, Ryan, I want to thank you for coming on the program, and I'd love to have you again. And hopefully, I'm as big as you're going to be, that I can have you back on my radio show.
Heck yeah, absolutely. Well, you have my number, so I would love to come back on anytime.
Awesome, Ryan. Well, Ryan, I want to thank you for coming on the program, and we'll make sure we get a shout out to everybody in our network to pick up your song "Burn" off of iTunes, and we'll share your website as well. And thank you for coming on the Battlefield Live, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
And thanks for your service, and what a great story, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care. Be safe.
All right. Well, folks, that was a great call, huh? This guy is going to be big league. I don't know if you all heard this song. I played it right before, and if you're just tuning in, I'll play a little bit here before we go to the second hour. But I tell you what, I always feel really, really good about our veterans coming back. And I tell you what, first of all, I know very close to 2 of the guys that are on our network, Dylan and Aaron, veterans that had to struggle with being coming back to the States and doing their different role in our society, right? So So whenever these veterans come back and they feeling down, and when they get up and stand back up and they go back and do great things like Ryan's done here in his music, and like Aaron and Dylan have done in their radio show, and others, Andrew Chavarria and the great things that he's been doing as a veteran. It's just really, really refreshing. And we got to do all that we can do to help support our veterans. So right now, if you could go, I'm going to actually share it on social media. Go to and find Ryan Weaver's his website. You can go to weavercountry.com, check it out there, and go to iTunes as well and look up his song "Burn" and give him some kudos, man. Find him on social media. Tell him he's doing a great job, and buy his song. Support him. And we need a lot more patriots like Ryan doing the great things that we need done in this country. Because I'm gonna tell you, I was like, it's not every place in the world that has the ability to do what I do, right? To speak our mind, to make sure we our freedom is flowing and continues, and so. People like Ryan and the other vets out there, we got to keep them. We got to keep them going because they keep us energized. So folks, if you haven't yet, make sure you check us out on social media. You can check us out on Lanterns Buzz on Facebook and Twitter. We are Facebook Live right now. We're going to go into the second hour. We're going to continue our discussion about what's going on in the economy. You can also check us out on Twitter at Lanterns Buzz. You can find me at Paul Revere again on both Facebook and Twitter. Also, make sure if you haven't yet, go to our website, lanterns.buzz, and subscribe to our newsletter. We send out our weekly newsletter, and it's packed with information. It's packed with articles, podcasts. If you like this program, you can actually find links back to the website to these different podcasts that we do. And interviews with Ryan and others. You can play those for your friends and let them listen to some very interesting commentary. And look, there's a lot of great talent out there, and we're going to be bringing in a lot of it. Right now, there's a ton of it right there now. Lanterns.buzz. Check it out there. So also, we're going to CPAC, and one of the things that we're going to be trying to do is our goal is to go to CPAC and meet up with a lot of these new representatives in Congress. There's going to be some of those there, and we're going to have to try to make sure that they, keep their focus on what's most important, and that's individual liberty and the Constitution, right? So we're going to share that message. We're going to bring lanterns to Washington, D.C. We're going to go there to fix the machine. That's our motto. We're here to fix the machine. We're going to do that. And we're going to need your help. And if you could, you go to donate.lanterns.buzz. You can actually help donate to the cause. And just give $1 if you wish. You can get $5, $10, $20, whatever you can afford to help us get to D.C. And we're going to be on Radio Row there covering CPAC, so you can get all the latest updates. We'll have some of our writers will actually be in the in the what do you call it? I got a brain fart here. In the ballroom there, and basically writing about what's going on stage. There's a lot of really, really great guests that are going to be there. I'm really excited about it. I actually loved going last year. It was a lot of fun. So do this, folks. Stick with me on the battlefield. We're going to be right back after this short break, and we still got a lot to cover, and we're going to get into a little bit more of the discussion on what's going on with the economy. So stick with me. We'll be right back after this short break.
you ever wondered what has happened to the United States and its once vibrant culture? Have you ever wondered why a virtuous American culture has been in decay for over 60 to 70 years? The book Deus Ex Machina, God from the Machine, explains how foreign belief systems have been imported into the United States by foreign intellectual agents to be used to fundamentally transform the most prosperous and free nation in the world into a typical third world country. Learn how the progressive academics, progressive activists, large corporations, and the mainstream media have become appendages of the federal government, a Praetorian Guard, and an extension of the political vanguard class. Deus Ex Machina exposes the cogs of the machine that progresses our civil society to chaos and subjugation. Get this tool to educate others and illuminate the truth on the battlefield of ideas. Let's make a difference. Get Deus Ex Machina, the progression of secular socialism, from Amazon.com and Lulu.com today.
You are listening to
The Lanterns Radio Network,
where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Houston? Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field of view now. Okay, ready for me to come out? All set. Okay, I'm on the top step. It's a very simple matter to hop down from one step to the next. You've got 3 more steps and then a long one. Okay, I'm going to leave that 1 foot up there and both hands down about the 4th rung up.
Roger that. 10 miles, he's back down my nose. Fox 1 again.
And we say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to our FBI, we will not be harassed. We will not make a butchery of our conscience. We will not be intimidated, and we will be heard.
6 miles, 6 miles. Valley 2. Turn it into me. Roger that. 12 miles. 4 miles.
I haven't got a cone.
Got the second one.
I got the second one on the nose right now.
Hey, I'm high cover on you.
Get it, lock him up. Lock him up.
Battlefield Live, Chris Killier, Lanterns Media Network. What's going on, folks? How's everything going tonight? I don't know what it is tonight. I've just been in a chipper mood. It's you know what it is? I think it's like when I got tons and tons of stuff I do, right? I work with Lanterns Media Network. I do a radio show, a lot of research. I write. I program. I'm a programmer. I have a day job, so always busy. My number one job is making sure that I keep my wife happy, keep my son happy. That's a full-time job, and I love to do it. I love to keep my wife happy. Got the best wife in the world. But I think when I just everything's kind of moving along and all the things are getting done, and I'm busy, I get chipper. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. I like being busy. I don't like being idle. I'm just that type of person. I don't know if y'all are like that, but and if I'm not busy, I'll find something to do. Of course, I never have enough time to do everything I got to do. So we'll talk a little bit more, folks, about what's going on in the economy. I want to shift over some things. We'll talk about some of the things that Donald Trump's doing, and also we're going to get into a couple of articles from Lanterns.buzz. You got to be checking out what's going on over there. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. And every time I refresh the site, it seems like I have new articles there. I mean, it's just constantly flooding in. So stick with me on the battlefield. We got some great stuff coming up. Battlefield Live, Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. We'll be right back.
We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live.
You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris Pilier from Lanterns Media Network, the Battlefield Live radio program. I want to thank you for joining me on the battlefield today, and we still have a ton of stuff to cover. And if you haven't yet, make sure you go over to Facebook Live. You can check us out on facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. Check us out there, and we are on the Facebook Live. Also, make sure you go to lanterns.buzz. There's a lot of really great articles. I tell you, like I said earlier, every time I go to this thing, there's just more and more articles. So here's one that I always love to read. I read it every day. This is from Crystal McCann. She does this day in history every single day. I mean, she's like super, super disciplined about it too. Like, I remember one day she called me and she said, "Look, I wasn't able to do my article today." I was like, "Don't worry about it." So, Crystal, you're real busy. She said, no, I need to get this out. So I read these things. Like today, for instance, January 25th, 389, Turkish theologian and Archbishop Gregory of Nazianzus, I don't even know if I said that right, dies. I don't even know who that is. All right. 1533, Henry VIII marries Anne Boleyn. How about that? Have y'all ever watched that movie, The Tudors? That show, The Tudors? You got to check it out. I love period pieces. I am not a big television watcher, but I do like watching series, and it's one of our one of my favorite pastimes with my wife. We go sit on the couch 9, 10 o'clock at night, kind of put on a series. Of course, I sometimes fall asleep. That's a whole other story. 1554, Sao Paulo is founded in Brazil. 1565, Deacon Sultanate destroy the last Hindu kingdom of southern India during the Battle of Talikota, India. 1759, Scottish poet Robert Burns is born. 1776, I always love it when it gets around the time of the founding. The Continental Congress authorizes the first National Revolutionary War Memorial in honor of Brigadier General Richard Montgomery, who was killed during an assault on Quebec the prior year. How about this one? 1787, Daniel Shays leads a group of farmers to revolt known as Shays Rebellion against tax laws. Y'all have heard of Shays Rebellion, right? That happened today in 1787. 1840, Charles Wilkes and his expedition become the first to identify Antarctica as a continent. Pretty interesting. 1846, the British Parliament repeals the Corn Laws, a tax of imported oats, wheat, and barley. Let's see if we can kind of fast forward here. I always like to go around the 20s, too, because you got all the stuff with the World Wars. How about this one? 1929, members of the New York Stock Exchange ask for an additional 275 seats. Pretty interesting. 1930, New York police rout a communist rally at the town hall. I wonder if that would happen these days. Let's see. Here was 1956. Nikita Khrushchev says he believes President Eisenhower is sincere in his efforts to abolish war. 1959, American Airlines begins its first coast-to-coast flight service. Think about that. 1959, right? That wasn't that long ago. First coast-to-coast flight service from American Airlines. 1961, President John F. Kennedy becomes the first president to hold a live televised news conference. Ooh, here's a creepy one. 1971, cult leader Charles Manson and his followers Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Leslie Van Houten are convicted of the murders of actors Sharon Tate and 6 others. They were all sentenced to death, but in 1972, a California Supreme Court abolished the death penalty, thus reducing their sentence to life imprisonment. So just really, really interesting stuff. I always love reading these things because it's amazing, all the things that you don't think about. Every single day, there's amazing things that happen in history, and Crystal chronicles that very, very well. How about this one? I like going through the articles like this. Rosie on the right. Y'all know Rosie? Y'all got to check her out on Lanterns. During the final hours, this is called Hours Before Trump Inauguration, Obama admin does this. During the final hours of Barack Obama's presidency, the outgoing president shocked Congress. On the morning of Trump's inauguration, the Obama administration defied Republican opposition and quietly released $221 million to the Palestinian Authority. This is money that GOP members of Congress had been blocking. In addition to the $221 million for the Palestinians, the Obama administration also notified a few members of Congress on Friday that it was going ahead with the release of another $6 million in foreign affairs spending, included were $4 million for climate change programs and $1.25 million for UN organizations. Congressional aides say the aides and the State Department official weren't authorized to speak publicly on the matter and demanded anonymity. I can never say that. It's like I got marbles in my mouth. GOP lawmakers Ed Royce of California, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and Kay Granger of Texas of House Appropriations Committee placed holds on the spending of this money. While congressional holds are generally respected by the executive branch, Obama, in typical fashion, did not respect a congressional hold of funds. He knew he was on the way out and did what he wanted to do. The $1.25 million for the UN agencies is a voluntary contribution to the UN peace-building fund. President Trump's comments before he took office regarding the UN made it clear his feelings about the UN. Obama took it upon himself to release these funds, or those funds rather, to the UN, knowing the administration succeeding him would not approve. The $4 million for climate change programs includes assistance for clean energy. Exactly how the money is being used is not yet known. The last-minute allocation also contains $1.5 million in funding for the State Department's Special Representative for Afghanistan and Pakistani Office of the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs. We can expect the funding to the Palestinians is likely to draw anger from the Trump White House. The Palestinian Authority is a state sponsor of terrorism through Hamas. This is not the first time that Obama has put money in the pockets of terrorist organizations. Don't you feel like what Obama did, he was kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like when you sell a house to someone, do you like pillage the house before you sell it? Or do you try to make it nice for the people that are going to be moving in? No. Barack Obama basically, had a party the night before, had people urinating on the floor. Throwing up on the floor, basically tearing up the place, knocking holes in the wall. That's what he did the day before he left, right? He tore the place up. He basically, threw money around, did a bunch of things that nobody was going to like. Why? Because he knew that it was going to be the last opportunity that he can get his agenda passed. It's just, to me, it's really frustrating. All right, so here's one of the articles that I really wanted to get to. This is from Mary Ramirez. If you all don't know Mary, she's a great patriot. You can find her on lanterns.buzz, and great writer. She says, what does it mean to make America great again? I want you to stop and think about something for a second. What exactly happened in the span of about 200 years that took us human beings from riding around on horse-drawn carriages to walking on the moon? Progress, she says. You might say, and yes, every age makes progress on the discoveries and innovations of the last. But when a society goes from sort of humankind status quo, quote-unquote, that is, that by and large, humans lived, worked, and died in much of the same way they had for thousands of years, to such heights never before seen, all in the span of just 2 centuries. Wouldn't something have to supercharge mankind for progress to take such an epic, unprecedented leap? From one of my favorite books, The 5,000-Year Leap, which is absolutely one of my favorite books. If you haven't got this book, you got to get it. The introduction, to which the Blazes Glenn Beck wrote, "The Jamestown settlers traveled in boats not much better than those sailed the Nile. Their farm tools consisted of a shovel, stick plow, and scythe, about the same as you would pick up at your local Baghdad hardware and feed back in 3000 BC. Transportation was by cart and by oxen, and their medicine was more superstition than substance. And worst of all, most of them died young." And then a group of, this is not a quote any longer, and then a group of pretty amazing individuals got together and signed the Declaration of Independence, fought a war, and won their freedom, and set up an entirely new and different kind of government. From that point present day, progress had been nothing short of miraculous, right? Beck continues, "What's 200 years in the history of the world? Nothing, really. Maybe an average Chinese dynasty? It's a blink. 200 years after the Constitution was signed, the great noble experiment of America's Declaration of Independence and free enterprise economics have produced phenomenal results. The United States started accumulating a fantastic list of technology, politics, and economics never before witnessed in the history of humankind. And the spirit of freedom infected the people all around the globe. Free market economics unleashed creativity and brilliance in nations everywhere." You know the rest of the story. It's just about 200 years. We went from the harpsichord to the iPod, from the outhouse to the flushing indoor toilet, from a months-long journey across the Atlantic to an 8-hour plane ride. It's really amazing when you think about it. There's got to be an X factor, a je ne sais quoi, a secret sauce, a magic bullet, right? Exactly. Hang on to that for a second. We'll come back to this. We've got to talk about Donald Trump. Believe me, I've had my doubts about the guy's creds, serious doubts. Many fears started to subside a little when I saw some of the people he was beginning to surround himself with, starting with the Indiana Governor Mike Pence, which I, too, think that's a great pick for vice president. My fears began to subside a little more when shortly before the election he released this very specific, very attractive contract with the American people. His promise was to do what he'd do in the first 100 days. I became more convinced than ever that he was our best shot. Against all odds, he won. And then all hell broke loose. Hollywood was apoplectic. Stars seethed and sobbed literally on social media. Supporters curled up in the fetal position. Some compared it to the voluntary election of Adolf Hitler. Parents began telling their children to fear the president-elect. Teachings began telling their students that Donald Trump will send them their legal immigrants' parents home. People talked about being scared to go to school. Riots took place in major cities across the country. Pro-Trump, or for those that might be, were beaten up. Side note, I remember my mom talking about how crazy the 60s were and how awful it was to live through them. And I was always wondered what that must have been like. Apparently, I was getting my chance. These people believe that Make America Great Again is a call to return to the dark days of Jim Crow, to slavery and racial inequality, the chemical castration of homosexual men or something. For the record, the last one based on the wildly inaccurate and easily proven claim that Mike Pence is a violent, raving homophobic who supports electroshock therapy for gay people. Bull. Loads and loads of bull. So let's get back to the X Factor. To learn what will make America great again, we need to learn what made America great in the first place. Great point. What took the founders from a quill pen to a MacBook? Unleashing mankind. You see, until our American founding, Every society was ruled by the idea that rights came from the government. Everything, even your very life, was at the mercy of the ruler's whim. The founders bucked that entire system. They believed that our rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness came from our Creator, not man, which meant those rights were not negotiable. Your life is yours. You've got freedom. You live as you please, so as long as you hurt no one. And you've got a right to your possessions. That's number one. Your rights come from God, not government, which means we're all equal. They've recognized that in order to maintain a society on the basis of inalienable rights that come from God, religion would need to play a major role. No, they didn't mandate or want a state church. While they established the country on the basis of Judeo-Christian values, they didn't dictate a type of religion and even recognize some practiced no religion at all. Still, they made morality a cornerstone because, as Cleon Skousen put it, the sanctity of civil rights and property rights, as well as the obligation of citizens to support the Constitution and protecting the inalienable rights, were all based on these Judeo-Christian religious precepts. That's number two. The Constitution and the Republic can only survive where God has a place. They also buck the idea that government was supposed to be a behemoth, or was supposed to be a behemoth. It didn't need to be if it wasn't everyone's everything. It could provide for the common defense of the states, so they made a strong military a priority, not to run around colonizing the world, but to instill peace through strength. They also realized that they have to put major checks and balances on the government if there were to survive mankind's nature. They left a vast majority of the decisions up to the individual states. Lastly, they recognized the government was supposed to answer to the people, not the other way around. That's number three. Government was supposed to have a limited purpose, to protect, not provide. They recognize that man isn't inherently good. In fact, we can be pretty damn selfish. So they harnessed that selfishness by championing a free market system that would grow the economy regardless of whether people were good and kind or completely self-centered. That's number four. True, free market is the best engine for prosperity ever devised. And guess what happens when you set mankind free in a society that's been set up to keep him free and prosperous? A 5,000-year leap. That, my friends, is American exceptionalism. Not the idea that American people are necessarily better than anyone else, but that our idea is. And we've fallen so far from it. We've replaced ingenuity and individual responsibility with government, and we've paid for it with the oppressive taxation. We've replaced our Bill of Rights with opinion and political posturing. We've replaced our free market with cronyism. We've replaced equal opportunity with equal outcome. In short, we've reverted back to the old way, the way everyone else did it for thousands of years, idling in mediocrity and dwindling freedom. Here's the thing. America is not a man, a presidency, or a party. We are indeed the utterly unique idea, an idea that Donald Trump seems to have based on vast majority of his plan on. Here's to hope he sticks to it. And if that's how America became great, then we can certainly do it again for everyone. Folks, that's a pretty compelling article, wouldn't you say? Look, make sure you go to lanterns.buzz. Check that out. Mary hit the nail on the head with that article. Thank you, Mary. You did a great job. Stick with me, folks. We'll be right back on the Battlefield Live radio program to give a little bit more perspective on how we can make America great again. Stick with me. We're right back after the short break. Battlefield Live.
Lanterns illuminating the truth.
People often ask me, they say, Chris, how is it that we can change the minds of many in this country? And I say, well, you first don't start with the mind. You have to start with the heart. You don't change minds without changing hearts. And that's what we're going to do. It wasn't that long ago that you might have not have had hope for the country, and all of a sudden you have a change of heart. We'll expect that other people right now feel the same way that you used to. It's those people that we have to reach out to. It may be you that we have to reach out to. So it's our task to form a community, a group, unified behind principles, unified behind what has made America the country that it is now. It's about liberty. It's about freedom. And everybody wants to experience this. We just have to show them how. It's about you being a lantern shining out the light of truth. And we can bring this all together in one place. It's truly about the shining city on the hill. Hope is not in the hands of someone else. It's within ourselves. It's within our hearts. It's within our minds. And it's about utilizing those things in order to be able to make us free.
Lanterns illuminating the truth. Battlefield Live.
Thank you for sticking with me on the battlefield. Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. Still got a whole bunch of stuff to discuss. That was a long segment, folks, but I had to get through that article. That was a great article about Mary. And you can check out, there's a bunch more there, and I'd love to just read all of them to you tonight, but that would defeat the purpose of me talking to you about what I think, right? I mean, I do think these articles are great. They're definitely worth reading, and if you want to read more articles like the one I just read you, make sure you go to lanterns.buzz and subscribe to our newsletter. I would say that we probably get anywhere from 5 to 10 articles a day that go through the website. We do have 24-hour radio that rolls through the night. 24 hours of radio. Check it out. So you'll hear some of my shows rebroadcast, other show hosts, as well as what we have on Spreaker. You can check out Spreaker.com. Just do a keyword search for Lanterns Buzz, and you can subscribe and follow us there. So there's no excuse, folks. You can't get away from us. Check those out and make sure you subscribe to us. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spreaker, Facebook, Twitter. We're everywhere, right? So I want to jump back into this conversation and kind of, we've had some light conversation now. I want to dig in a little bit here, and I want to prod that brain of yours. I want you to think, okay? One of the things that we saw in 2000, I was mentioning earlier about the bubble pop, right? So let's kind of like just talk about fundamentals, economic fundamentals, right? We all understand how supply and demand works. In other words, if you have something that everybody wants, you can pretty much make your own price, right? So, for instance, an Apple iPhone. Everybody wants an Apple iPhone, right? So that's why Apple iPhones are really expensive, and they probably make a decent profit on them, right? Or they wouldn't make them. So what causes Apple to make iPhones is profit. I actually have one. Really like it. Love my iPhone. And I'm willing to spend the money to be able to get one because of the value that it provides. So I make a value judgment when I buy an iPhone. I understand the benefits of having one, I understand what happens if I don't, and the benefits that it brings me in my life. It makes life easier for me. It's worth the money that I spend in order to be able to get the iPhone, right? That's a value judgment. We all make value judgments every single day. And it's not just with dollars. It may be about a relationship. We may say, you know what? I don't necessarily like hanging around with this person because they don't do anything for me. They don't provide me any value in my life. It may seem selfish, but all of our relationships are built on this. When I met my wife, I said, this individual brings so much value to me that I want to spend the rest of my life with her. And there was no question in it. So I think that some people, they don't make good value judgments, right? So, I mean, obviously, some people get married, they get divorced. They didn't make a good value judgment, apparently, right? Maybe it's the value judgment after they got married. They made a bad value judgment when they decided to get divorced. They didn't value the relationship that they said they should have, right? So value judgments are not just economic judgments. They're also relationships. It may be, like for me, I don't watch television because there's no value in watching television. There's value in watching documentaries or reading a book. There's value in, watching a series with my wife because we enjoy it together. It's something we can talk about. When you spend your whole life with someone, there's always the need to try to engage and talk about new things. So we'll watch series and talk and debate about what we think there is going on in the series and whether or not we like it or not. We'll joke with each other when we want to watch something that the other person doesn't want to watch. These are all values, right? So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that whenever the value of something is distorted, it changes the relationship between supply and demand. It changes the relationship between the two people involved in the relationship. So here's an example. Let's say you meet someone. Let's say you're a guy and you meet a girl, and you decide that. And yes, that's normal in this day and age, folks. It's still normal to meet, a guy meeting a girl. Anyway, so the guy meets the girl, right? And the girl, doesn't tell the guy the truth about something in her life. Okay. Let's say she's got, Let's say she's got a lot of debt. Okay, she doesn't tell him. And then he doesn't tell her something, right? Let's say, all right, we'll get all Jerry Springer. He's got a kid, and she don't even know about it. And so they go through a long-term relationship for a new couple. Let's say it's 6 months, 8 months, right? And neither of them tell each other about this stuff. Well, they've made value judgments based on the information that they know, right? And what they don't know, if they found out, it would reduce the value of the relationship because it's something that you consider. You obviously, when you get in a relationship with someone, is that money's important. You got to understand what the solvency of a marriage is. Some people decide that's not a big of an issue because you love the person so much that you'll be willing to take on financial issues with someone because you love them. But if you don't tell them, then it could possibly be a problem, right? So these are things that distort value, and then they break down relationships, right? So the relationship between supply and demand, there's a relationship there. When you go to McDonald's and you're at the drive-thru and you're just trying to determine what you want to buy, when you decide what you want to buy, that tells McDonald's that is a value because they count how many Big Macs have sold, right? And if they're depleting the number of Big Macs being sold, they're not selling as many as they're selling something else. Well, maybe they need to promote one or the other for whatever reason. They make value judgments, right? Okay, so check this out. So the market it works in the same way. There's a relationship in the market between a buyer and a seller, right? Supply and demand. The seller is the supplier, and the buyer is the person with the demand, right? With me so far? So if you're going to go buy a home, let's say you're going to go buy a home and it's a $100,000 home, and it's just you're the only one in the whole neighborhood, except you and the seller. and you're the only one that is going to go buy this home, and the guy says, all right, it's $100,000, I'll sell you this house for $100,000. Use it $100,000, make it easy. All right? And there's somebody else that wants to buy the home, but they don't have $100,000. Right? They don't have $100,000 because they can't get a loan because their credit's messed up. Right? So the guy that's selling it, he's just saying, well, nobody else is going to buy it, so there's not a whole lot of demand. I'll sell it to you for $100,000. So let's say that the federal government says, you know what? It's not fair that the other guy can't get a loan because he's got bad credit. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a type of loan that can help out this guy to make it a little more fair, right? We're going to make it a little more fair for the guy that can't necessarily afford to pay or get a loan to buy the $100,000 home. So they give him what they call a subprime loan, right? It's a little bit more risk for the bank, but the federal government believes that we need to be more fair, right? And they may decide that we need to be more fair because, well, that person's black. Or maybe they're Latino. Or maybe they're a female. Single female. Right? Single mother. How about that? So we need to try to be fair. So they create this subprime loan. And they tell the banks that make these subprime loans that you cannot discriminate against people of color or something of that nature. And they can't do what they call redlining. So they're basically compelled to give loans to people that not necessarily can afford them, or at least don't have the credit to be able to get the loan. So now there's two people wanting to buy that home that's $100,000. And the guy knows it. And he says, you know what? It's more demand. Y'all want to buy the house? Okay. It's $120,000. Cool. Well, now, I don't want to buy the house that's $120,000. I'd much rather go find another house because I don't want to spend $120,000. So the guy with the subprime loan decides to get it. He buys it. And now I'm trying to look around for a house. There's demand. And I find another house. That house is $120,000. I missed out on this one because there's more demand. And I'm going to go buy this one, and all of a sudden, there's another person that has got a subprime loan too, and they're willing to pay $120,000. And I need a house, so I'm going to pay $120,000. Well, the guy says, you know what? $130,000. And all of a sudden, here comes somebody else with another subprime loan. Because now there's a whole bunch of people that, hey, go down to the bank. My credit's terrible, and I can get a loan. Don't matter what your credit is. You ever seen those commercials? We'll take anybody. You can have no credit at all. Right? So what happens? So now we have an inflation in housing prices. Right? Well, the inflation in housing prices, the fact that banks gave out these loans didn't eliminate the risk. The risk is there. These people that got these loans, these subprime loans, that didn't have the best credit, they're a higher risk. Okay. So think about this. So the housing prices are actually going up. The value is being distorted because there's a lot more demand than the market normally would allow, right? Now you've injected risk into the market, instability, right? All right. So think about this. You're a bank, and you know that you're having to, based on what the government is telling you to do, that you have to give out riskier loans. You're afraid that you could possibly be at risk with these bad loans. So what do? Well, you're a bank. You can create insurance, right? Create your own insurance. You can create an investment vehicle where people can buy that risk. So that way you're insured if that mortgage goes bad. Right? That's what the banks did. They did this. They still do it.
They leverage risk. So now they got people paying for that risk. And what they're going to do is if the risk stays in good shape, they'll give that money back. It's like insurance, right? If the person that bought the mortgage, they default, then the person that bought that risk, they're the ones that lose out, not the bank, right? Now, if they do lose out, the bank probably has to pay a small premium back to the person because that's obviously an investment vehicle. But the risk has been mitigated, right? All right. So think about this. Think about 1 million people like that bought those loans, they got those loans that couldn't necessarily afford them. The banks leverage all that risk. So you have all this risk, and then you have people buying that risk. And then you have ways of, and I'm not going to get into the derivatives and all that stuff, but the banks, they're actually doubling down on all that risk, and they're spreading this risk all throughout the market, right? And the housing prices are steadily going up, right? The federal government is constantly telling the banks to make sure that you're giving out those loans. So what happens? It's called a bubble. It's inflation. Artificial price increases because it's distorting the market. The market knows better. And I'm not talking about an individual person that's a market. I'm talking about the entire market, the entire the invisible hand, if you will, from Adam Smith. We talked about in The Wealth of Nations. That invisible hand that guides the market. That is the true essence of value, right? The common thread throughout all the transaction that takes place every second is the true value of the market, right? And the housing market's no different. So now, the guy that bought my house for $120,000, he all of a sudden can't pay his loan because oil prices go up, and now his gas prices go up in his car, and he can't afford to pay his house note. What happens? Well, he defaults on that loan. What happens to the bank? Well, the bank says, "Sorry, Mr. Investor, you don't get that risk anymore, or you have to pay on that risk. You made a bad investment. Sorry." Then it happens to the other guy that bought the $130,000 home, and it happens to this one. It happens to that one. Next thing you know, all these people, because of the rise in oil prices, they can't pay their gas and their car to get to work. Next thing you know, the whole market comes tumbling down because all of that risk collapses on itself. It's a bunch of inflated air in the market underneath the value of the housing, right? Y'all following me? So what happens? It collapses on itself. So when that happens in 2008, because this is exactly what happened, and this is very, very kind of made easy to explain. It's a lot more complicated than this. But this is what happened. Okay? So what happens? Well, the government, the Democrats, progressives, they blame the banks. They say it's the bank's fault. Republicans, for the most part, explain to no, it's not the bank's fault necessarily. It was the government that forced the banks to do something they shouldn't do. They distorted the relationship between the banks and the demand, the supply and the demand, right? So in the process of trying to fix this, there's this huge, downslide in the market. People losing their jobs. And so what does the government do? Well, they decide that they're gonna go out and bail all these big businesses out. They bail them out. They spend tons of our money that we don't even have. We're in a deficit. In other words, they're spending in deficit. We don't have cash in the bank. They're borrowing money to give it to people that have failed. Think about that. They're taking our money and giving our money, the people that struggle, they're giving our money to General Motors because General Motors failed. They had made bad business decisions. They gave it to Chrysler because Chrysler made bad business decisions. They gave it to big banks like Goldman Sachs because they made bad business decisions. All these multi-billion-dollar organizations. They gave them the money. Not us. Not us, the people that needed it, or give it back to us in taxes, but by reducing our taxes. They gave it to these big companies because they were too big to fail. Right? Got to take care. Especially if there are people that give us money.
right? So what happens? So now you have this terrible economic situation, and now Barack Obama and the Fed, which is basically it's a private entity, it's not a government entity, it's made up of a cabal of banks. They determine that they need to try to prod the economy through Keynesian economics. Or Keynesian economics, best way to say it. Okay? Don't want to put Kenya out there. It's not Kenyan, it's Keynesian. I get myself in trouble. So what do? The Federal Reserve starts printing money. Right? They're pumping money into the economy. In other words, they're going to take and print this money. Now, what are they going to do with the money? They're going to give it to the banks because they want to make sure that the economy is flush with cash. That way people can get loans and go buy more houses or whatever they want to buy. Because the Great Depression happened when the money supply dried up. People couldn't get money. So when businesses couldn't get money, they couldn't create jobs, right? They couldn't borrow money to invest in their business or build a refinery or a steel mill or whatever. So what happened is that the money dried up and people couldn't get jobs. So the Fed, through printing money, is putting this money into the economy. Well, who are they giving it to? They're giving it to the banks, right? They give it to the banks. Why do they give it to the banks? Well, the banks are going to loan the money, right? Well, hold up. Got to go back to the supply and demand thing. So the banks say, well, I can give a loan out to Mr. Smith. Well, interest rates stink right now. They're really, 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 really low because Barack Obama and the Fed and all that, they want to keep the interest rates low so people can borrow money at low interest. They want to spur economic activity. But at the same time, I'm a bank. I want good interest. I want return on my money that I'm loaning out. Well, if interest is at 2%, 3% or whatever, and I can go make 6% in the market, I'd much rather put my money, in the stock market. Yeah. That's a great idea. Hey, Mr. Banker, instead of giving the money to the people that are going to go out and do things with it, go out and buy a home or build something or whatever, or go buy other things to create economic activity, let's dump it in the stock market because we can make 6%. Hell about giving it to Mr. Smith. I'm only going to get 3% on him. Let's go put it in the stock market. That'd be great. And guess what? All of us will make a bunch of money when the stock market goes up and we're pumping $4 trillion into it. So guess what? They print $4 trillion and shove it into the stock market. Why is the stock market at 20,000 right now? What happens with all that money? Well, your cost on things go up. Why? Because the dollar is worth less. Think about this. If you take $1, that dollar has something behind it, right? It's worth X amount of pieces of gold, right? X amount of weight of gold. It's not the gold standard where it equals the same amount, right? But there's a value to it. And typically, it's like $1 is really worth 50-something cents, right? But if you take that dollar and you Xerox copy it and you print another one, now you got $2 that are worth 56 cents, right? That's inflation. That's the destruction of value. That's the distortion of value. So the monetary policy of the United States is distorting value much like the value was distorted at the time of the housing market. You following me? So I want you to think about this. So if your dollar is worth less, that means it costs more to buy things, right? If that $1, they printed another one, that $1 becomes $2. So things that used to cost $1 now cost $2, right? That's inflation. So what did Barack Obama also do with some of that debt? You ever heard of quantitative easing? They printed money and paid off debt because what happens is is when China comes to the United States and buys our bonds, our treasury bills, right? When they buy those treasury bills, when they come due, we have to pay back with interest those treasury bonds. They mature. So basically, there's a term on them, and let's say I'll use some simple numbers here. It's a $100 bond. Well, at maturity, let's say they get $25 on a $100 bond. You get $25 back. That's the interest, right? That's one other reason why they want to keep the interest rates low, because they have to pay less back to China. What do you think China thinks about that? Talk about trade wars? Huh? Yeah. So here it is. You got the Fed printing money, making things cost more because the dollar is worth less, right? Now Barack Obama starts paying off debt with those printed dollars. Now, typically, what good economic policy or good government policy would be to raise taxes to pay those bills, because those are bills that we have to pay. A lot of this debt is our own debt. We are actually buying our own debt. Americans do buy bonds, treasury bonds, or bills, right? T-bills. It's some of our own debt. So in a lot of cases, we buy our own. But when he's printing money and paying off debt, it's only compounding the problem. And not only compounding the problem, he's doing that because he doesn't have enough guts to come and ask for more tax money. Why? Because it's politically, it's disastrous politically. Barack Obama most likely would have never been reelected if he raised taxes. Right? It's unpopular to raise taxes on the American people. So by not having enough stones to raise taxes on the American people, instead what he did, because he had to bypass Congress. If you do it through Congress, you raise taxes through Congress like you're supposed to. That's the purpose of it, right? To get the consent of the people, right? That's the constitutional way, to get the consent of the people in order to be able to spend their money. But they didn't have the political will to do it. So instead what he did was he taxed you another way. He printed money and made your prices go up. So he took the printed money, paid off debt. Instead of taxing you and paying off debt, he printed money, paid off debt. Your prices of your goods went up. Now you were taxed and you didn't even know it. You go to the store and your milk is twice as expensive. Who do you blame? Man, frickin' prices of frickin' milk went up. What the hell? Winn-Dixie, that's terrible. I'm gonna go to Walmart and see that. Man, they're just expensive. Must be the milk supply. Right? We just kind of blow it off. No big deal. But we don't think about monetary policy. Think about that conversation with your neighbor. Hey, you want to talk about monetary policy today? It's not a conversation you have. And they know this, folks. They know that millions and millions and millions of people are not going to drive millions of miles to come listen to Chris talk about monetary policy. They're not. So they just do it. They screw you. That's what it boils down to. So these are the type of things I think we need to start paying attention to. We need to learn. There's enough information out there. The internet is an amazing place. You can learn so much. And all we have to do is learn these type of things, talk about them. That's what I do. I like to talk about these things, to inform everyone about what's going on in our economy. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump, he has spurred some excitement in the country, in the economy, because he's followed through on some of his promises. And one of the promises is make America great again. So if he's following through on all of his promises, people see the momentum. They say, well, there's a possibility he could make America great again. He's going to get our economy back. Ooh, excuse me. So the point is that there is some excitement, there is some validity to the fact that the Dow went over 20,000 because of Donald Trump. There is some validity to that. I don't want to take that from the man. I mean, he's generating some interest in the market that we haven't seen in quite some time. And I think it's really, really important to recognize and give kudos where kudos are due. At the same time, we just understand the situation we're in, because this bubble that we're still sitting on, there's another bubble in the housing market, could possibly pop again. And let me tell you something, folks. If the economic system is not handled properly by the people that shouldn't be handling it all, it's not a free market anymore. If they're not handling it properly, we could get hyperinflation, which means you go to work in the morning and you get a paycheck at 9 o'clock, and by 12 o'clock, your paycheck is worth half of what it was. And by 3 o'clock, it's worth a quarter of what it was when you got to work. Why? That's hyperinflation. That's when the money comes rushing back into the United States. If the Fed doesn't handle our monetary policy correctly and our interest rates correctly, the system collapses. And it costs you $1 million to buy a loaf of bread. Of course, everybody's got $1 million. It's not worth anything. So, folks, I'm hoping I'm making a lot of sense, and I know these are kind of heavy topics, but I know you're good for it. Typically, if you're listening to this program, you are listening to something that's a little bit deeper than just your average entertainment. I mean, I try to entertain everyone, but I want to inform. And I learned these from someone, and I teach them to someone. I just pass it along. I would expect you to do the same. There's a couple ways you can do that. You can take notes about what we talked about and go share it, or you can simply share this podcast. You can do this in a number of different ways. You can go to Spreaker and just do a keyword search for Lanterns Buzz, find this podcast and share it. Or you can go to lanterns.buzz. I'll have this article, or the articles that I talked about today, as well as any references that I've used. You can take that and share that. I'll have a Spreaker embed that you can let people listen to the show. We had that great interview with Ryan Weaver earlier. And share that information. Just share it. Doesn't cost you anything. Share the content, and we can get this word out. So the biggest thing that I want you all to take away from this is that I want you to look at what's going on with Donald Trump. If you're a never Trumper or anything like that, just take account for what he's doing right now. I was not a huge Trump supporter. I'll just be honest with you. But I'm looking day to day at what he's doing. And I'm being responsible about how I report on him. If you listened to me about 2-3 months ago, you heard a different tone from me about Donald Trump. Specifically, when he was in the primary, it was a whole different tone from me because I favored other candidates. And I didn't necessarily believe a lot of the things that he's doing right now. I'll admit that. So don't just trust what you hear from me. Go out and do your own research. I provide resources to everything. It'll be in my archives. So I want to make sure, first and foremost, I thank you for coming to the battlefield today. It's been a pleasure. This is the battlefield of ideas. This is where we make things happen on the battlefield. And I would expect that that you could share this information to get other people to listen to the program. And make sure you check out our website at Lanterns Buzz. And we'll be back next week. We got a lot of great things happening next week. We're gearing up for CPAC. And so thank you for joining me on the battlefield today. My name is Chris Pielier with Lanterns Media Network. And it's been a pleasure. And we'll see you next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Lanterns Media Network on Spreaker. Facebook Live, facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. You can check me out on Twitter as well at LanternsBuzz. So thank you for joining us. We'll be back later. Tater.